After a long and arduous march through the eerie and hostile jungle, the reconnaissance team finally spots a well-camouflaged facility in the distance at dusk, shimmering through the dense vegetation. In the center stands a large building, surrounded by smaller structures, some equipped with large antennas. Completely drenched in sweat, Park grabs Helt by the shoulder.
We have reached our destination, it seems. I wouldn't have lasted much longer with all this gear and having to watch every step to avoid stepping on an aggressive snake or suddenly playing Who Blinks First with a black jaguar.
All right, you joker. As long as you keep your sense of humor, I don't have to worry about you. I know you well enough by now.
He turns to Harrington.
The intervention team should fall back from here. I'll scout the area while Park gains access to the security system with his laptop.
Harrington agrees and stays behind with the special unit, while Helt and Park cautiously move closer to the facility. Around 30 heavily armed and highly alert guards are stationed outside. Helt whispers to Park.
There are likely at least as many stationed inside the facility.
Park responds anxiously.
Well, this is going to be fun.
You stay here and do your job. I'll make sure to clear us a path into the building.
As soon as he says this, he cautiously sneaks up on one of the guards stationed at a side door of the building and silently knocks him out with a precise strike. He turns to Park and signals with his hands that it's time to unlock the door electronically. Park, frantically working on his laptop, shrugs slightly, looking somewhat unsure. Just as Helt is about to retreat into the cover of the jungle to rejoin Park, the door finally unlocks with a loud click. Park catches up with Helt, and together they enter the unknown building. The interior of Volkov's facility is a futuristic fusion of cold elegance and ruthless functionality, resembling more of a spaceship than an abandoned drug factory. The walls are made of glossy black metal, with an almost mirror-like surface, interrupted by embedded LED strips emitting a dim, cold light. The ceilings are high, crisscrossed with intricate pipelines and cable networks that resemble the veins of a colossal organism. In some areas, they are shielded by plexiglass, revealing pulsating lights beneath. The two stealthily pass drone charging stations along the walls, where small, arachnid-like surveillance drones are docked. Automatic doors glide open silently as they approach, sealing shut with a vacuum-like hiss. The facility's interior is bathed in a diffuse, neon-like glow, primarily in cold blue and white, lending the space an almost extraterrestrial ambience. As Helt signals Park to stay a few meters behind and steps into a corridor with his gun drawn, a towering man suddenly emerges from behind and effortlessly takes him down in a chokehold. Just as the guard reaches for his comms device to call for backup, Park, hiding behind a corner, smashes him over the head with his laptop, which shatters into countless pieces from the impact. After securing and gagging the unconscious guard in a side room, the two continue deeper into the facility, constantly at risk of being discovered. Upon entering another hallway, Helt raises a finger to his lips, his gaze sharp and intense, a clear signal for absolute silence. A figure emerges from a nearby room, appearing more like a scientist than a soldier, shuffling clumsily into another corridor. Helt and Park cautiously examine the door and peek inside. The room appears to be a small control hub, equipped with multiple computer stations and several monitors, some even embedded into the walls. Park whispers excitedly, his voice trembling slightly.
Adrian, this seems to be a small digital hub, exactly what I need to learn more about the facility. I'm really not doing this without serious fear, but I think it's better if I stay here and try my luck.
Helt nods in agreement and sets off in search of Volkov. Carefully, he lets his gaze wander through the maze-like corridors, shimmering in dim light, scanning every corner with keen attention. Suddenly, the lights in the corridor go out, and a single monitor casts an eerie flicker into the darkness. On the screen, Volkov appears, a cold smile on her lips.
Hello, Adrian. Nice to see you. I hope you enjoyed your time at the Fluffy Puffy Eco Lodge and my little Amazon zoo with tame snakes and cuddly predators.
Held is beside himself, takes a brief moment to collect himself, and rushes back to the room where he left Park. He sneaks up to the door and sees Park sitting at the computer. On the wall, a large monitor also displays Volkov's face. Park appears to be typing nonsense into the keyboard, and Volkov repeats exactly what he types. Completely confused, with his pistol raised, he steps into the room and aims it at Park.
Tell me that I'm wrong, and that you're not the one pulling the strings behind all of this. The encounter in the taxi in Busan, the impressive story of the harmless internet nerd. And all of this is just a distraction, buying time to carry out more operations to unsettle the world.
Park stands up, trembling and speechless, sweat beading on his forehead. He barely manages to utter a word, but an incredulous Adrian can be guessed from his lips just as the lights turn on, revealing Jinho Kim behind Helt, accompanied by an armed escort.
Not quite, Mr. Helt. It was a Korean indeed, but not your pathetic little companion. As I see it, at least he managed to unmask me.
Held turns around, takes a few steps back, and stops next to Park. Completely taken aback, he exclaims,
Well, it seems like nothing here is as it appears.
Now that you are in my custody, our little secret stays within the family, before you both take it to the grave. As for the men who surely accompanied you and are now waiting in the jungle for your command, a small unit of my intelligent artificial army will take care of them. I had them flown in by helicopter specifically for such a scenario.
Kim walks over to a microphone at a control panel and commands his AI army to deploy into the jungle.
What on earth are you trying to achieve with your actions?
In the beginning, I truly had an idealistic vision. Suddenly, I had a tool in my hands that could have made everything in the world better. I could remove all the incompetent and selfish politicians from powerful positions. Those who fail to provide the world with the security and prosperity it deserves. My father always taught me how much people suffer under powers that hide behind the masks of communism, capitalism, religion, or other facades, waging wars while letting the subjugated masses fight and die. His father, my grandfather, was severely wounded in the Korean War and was no longer able to provide for his family afterward. This made my own childhood all the harsher, shaped by the belief that life does not favor us, that we can only gain wealth, respect, and honor through immense sweat and blood, and that otherwise we are worth nothing. Politics, in the end, is only about power, money, and control. All things that do nothing to benefit the little people, like my grandfather back then, the ones who die or get wounded for this greed. If anything, the opposite is true.
After a brief pause, he continues in an arrogant tone.
There were a few other idealists at IHAI Lab with influential connections. Over time, after countless nights of preparation, I managed to create a digital replica of a powerful oligarch, Letitia Volkov. My company sent me to her as a lead engineer, programmer, and architect of a groundbreaking new AI technology because she had shown great interest in acquiring a significant share of the company's stock. As far as I know, she had not the slightest idea of the military potential hidden within the product. She was only interested in a highly profitable stake in a promising enterprise. At our meeting in Kazakhstan, she was completely unsuspecting and visibly surprised when my associates suddenly drew their weapons, placed her under arrest, and from that moment on, I replaced her with a digital replica under my control. It was not difficult to learn about one of her former key associates, someone completely devoted to her, Dmitry Korovin. Through him, we gained everything we needed to establish our global network in a militarized fashion. We simply took the money from Volkov. She had more than enough of it. Over time, however, I found that I truly enjoyed the game of power and control, so I changed my plan. I abandoned my quest to avenge my grandfather and to be an obedient son to my father, who never treated me particularly well anyway. I eliminated my co-conspirators from our leadership ranks and set out to take control of the world. While your men in the jungle are about to face an unwinnable and hopeless battle against my AI unit, preparations have already been made to dethrone multiple world powers simultaneously, in exactly 24 hours. The loss of our small outpost in Jordan is of little consequence to this plan.
Helt stares at Kim in disbelief.
You are completely insane. Possibly brilliant in your skills, but otherwise totally mad. That's all there is to it. And you will pay for everything you want to do to people and have already done. Just like your lackey Korovin.
Oh, and you, Helt, want to make me pay? How exactly do you plan to do that in your current situation?
The lights in the room flicker abruptly, and Kim's guards are shoved aside by armed AI robots stumbling chaotically through the space. At the same time, Volkov's static image vanishes from the monitor, replaced by a young Korean-looking man. He calls out for Park.
Jinwoo, we managed to infiltrate your control bot into the facility's system. It's causing quite a bit of chaos there for now. But I can't say how long it will last. I can't see you, unfortunately, but I hope you're receiving my message through the channel you called Volkov's call, and that you make good use of our action.
Held jumps up and shouts.
You can count on that. You climate heroes.
As multiple shots ring out in the chaos, Helt manages to take down two of the guards, while the others are occupied with the wildly flailing and grasping robots, which attack indiscriminately. Kim flees down the corridor under the cover of darkness, and shortly after, a deafening alarm blares across the facility. Helt briefly turns to Park before taking up the chase.
Hide in one of the cabinets at the back of the room and wait until I return.
Park nods at him, taps two fingers against his temple, and points at him before disappearing into the background. As Helt sprints down the corridor, three men break free from the influence of the rogue robots and give chase. They open fire immediately, but in the flickering corridor lights, he is already barely visible. Moments later, gunfire erupts from outside, followed by screams piercing the night. One after another, explosions shake the facility. Completely exhausted, Helt finally reaches a spacious, illuminated corridor. At the far end stands Kim, and in front of him, a towering combat robot, its high-caliber weapon trained directly on Helt.
May I introduce you to my new prototype? I have named him Thanatos. He is equipped with a new kernel that allows him to think and act far beyond the limits of human intelligence. And he is not so easily manipulated by ridiculous little bots programmed by simple-minded children.
Held freezes in the face of the deadly weapon aimed at him, but his mind is working feverishly to find a way to turn the situation in his favor. He is surprised that the machine waits for the final words of its creator, instead of simply liquidating him, who is a defenseless and hopeless target. A second seems to stretch into an eternity. The rivaling gazes of the men electrify the air as if it is ready to explode at any moment. The humanoid robot remains motionless and idle with its weapon. As Kim shouts at the machine, a single shot is fired. Kim looks at Helt with wide-open eyes, hit by a bullet from Helt's pistol.
It seems you have assigned the machine a little too much intellect. For whatever reason, it has chosen not to attack in order to protect its master and creator.
While Helt says this, Kim collapses lifelessly to the ground. Helt eyes the still, motionless robot in the room suspiciously and speaks to it as if it were an opponent on the battlefield who just now seems to have allied with him.
While these chlorophyll bots have caused quite a bit of chaos, Kim may have unintentionally instilled something like morality and humanity in you.
Harrington enters the room in full combat gear, accompanied by a black-haired woman who looks both beautiful and regal, with an air of elegance and style.
May I introduce you both? Letitia Volkov. We were able to free her from the clutches of her captors. She has already told us everything she knows. Congratulations, my dear colleague, on your brilliant work. I believe our genius AI architect can no longer cause any trouble in the world.
You're welcome, my dear colleague from the only real intelligence agency in the world.
Now don't be too modest. I must admit, I was quite impressed by your work when those terrifying killer machines suddenly started chasing the monkeys in the jungle instead of attacking us. We surely wouldn't have stood a chance.
As Park enters the scene, he is met by Helt with a friendly and grateful smile, silently telling a story that only the two of them understand.
Forgive me, my friend, for even considering that you might be playing a false game.
It's okay, boss.
Then Volkov turns to Helt.
How can I show you my gratitude? And most importantly, how do I regain my reputation?
Well, my esteemed colleague Harrington will surely have an idea, won't he?
Held shoots him a mischievous grin, while Harrington looks visibly taken aback, unable to find a response. Back in Berlin, Helt reports the events to Werner.
That was a coup, Helt. But it seems the world will never know who was really behind it.
Maybe that's for the best.
He looks at a photo of Elena, which he discovers in a red file on Werner's desk, and whispers,
For you.